All right, we'll get going. I will ask you all to stay on mute, even if you think there's not going to be anything. Feedback and background noise can often disrupt what's going on. So please take just a moment right now and mute yourselves. It will help me out greatly so that I don't have to be in charge of that and I can just focus on presenting information. We are going to finally talk about new rules. I know you all are eager, and I understand the eagerness. I hope you all know it is not through any fault of anyone. There has been issues apparently with the NFHS printer, and they thought things would be ready long before they were. So we will do our best to practice grace toward them and understand that things happen and be grateful that that CIF has now released me to begin sharing some of these things with the state. Just so you all know, I have seen and read the rule book. So everything that you will be presented with today has come from the rule book that you will all receive. We also understand from NFHS website that their intent is the rule books will ship on June 9th. Once they ship, they will go to CFOA, and CFOA will distribute to the individual units. So for some of you, we may still be several weeks out from actually having hands on a rule book. All of that is a little bit dependent on how quickly we can get things distributed to you all. But it has to come from, because CFOA orders all of the rule books for the individual units, they all have to come from there. Again, thank you all for your understanding. We're very grateful and happy to see so many of you here right now. Let's start talking about some of the things that you are going to see for the upcoming 2025 season. So we'll be going over the new timing procedures. We will be going over the I don't know who's writing on my screen, but if you could not, that would be super helpful. New timing procedures, the changes to the rush line, and then the changes to the mechanics regarding that rush line. Point after tries, what they're going to look like, the field size and use of pylons. You'll understand that more when we get to that point, as well as where play will begin. Now, this does not obviously cover all of the things, and I know that there are already out there a bunch of questions about several other things that we will begin to see in this iteration of the rulebook from NFHS. Please know that that's why we are going to have another meeting in just 1 week's time so that we can continue to explore the changes that will be still coming down the pipeline. Okay. So let me start with the really good news. Everyone will be getting an increase in game fee. Just so you all are aware, those game fee rates will be going up to, for varsity level 3 officials for the 2025 season, it will be $74 per game. And for 2 officials, it will be $81 per game. There's an automatic 10% up in game fee for 2 officials versus the 3 officials. For non-varsity contests, the game fee will be moving to $58 for 3 officials. and $64 for 2 officials. The increases are because of the things that we are going to cover just now. As you all should know, we get from CIF Southern Section an hourly rate. So it has already been determined that games will be lasting longer than they did last year. So the increase in your game fee that you will be paid is coming off of an increase in time. We will now be using 4 quarters. The change will include, just like tackle football, switching end zones in between the first and second, or switching ends of the field in between the first and second quarters, as well as in between the third and fourth quarters. Our coin toss, therefore, will look pretty much, and we'll go over this when we dive deeper into mechanics, what the coin toss will actually look like and how it will function. But we will have the same things that we've had where, we're selecting defer to defer the choice until the second half. And now it actually matters because we will be flipping the field at quarters. So 4 12-minute quarters. The stop clock procedures, as we have known them and as we have been using them, will continue to be used in the last 2 minutes of each half. The change for us comes in the next bit. The clock will stop for all penalties, scores, changes of possession during the entire game. Okay? We should all know that this puts us as officials very much in charge of how long these games are going to take. While we don't want you overlooking fouls, please understand that every foul stops the clock. Now, the other component of this, as we are moving to getting better as a CFOA flag football officials, is the amount of hustle that's going to be required. We really want to make sure that the field judge or the line judge, and you'll understand those positions better down the way, are enforcing that penalty while the referee is announcing the penalty, so that as soon as the referee is finished with their announcement, they can turn around and immediately set it back to running clock. So, just so everybody is very clear about that, we will be stopping the clock for all penalties, scores, and changes of possession. The point after tries will now be an untimed down, so the clock will not start even during running clock time until the snap of the next possession. After a score, the clock will stop. It will remain stopped until we snap the ball of the next possession. Okay? I estimate, I guess it's really me, game times and what we worked with CIF to increase those game fees is the game times will increase by about 15 minutes because of these things. Ergo, the change in game fee that you all will see reflected in your pay rates. Okay? So, the clock will stop when a penalty is called and during its enforcement. The clock starts on the ready for play unless it was stopped for a timeout. Then the clock will start on the snap, or unless we are playing under stopped clock procedures and the clock was already stopped, just like in tackle football. Okay? If you have questions about these and you're new to flag football or you're new to football in general, please, I encourage you all to spend time with your individual instructional chairs and understand deeper how clock procedures function in tackle football, because we will be doing most of those. Essentially, during running clock time, the only time the clock will not stop is out of bounds and incomplete passes. We will run through those, but it will stop for pretty much everything else. Okay, so we're stopping on change of possession. We'll start on the snap. We'll stop on a score. It will remain stopped for the point after try. It will stop when an inadvertent whistle is blown. Clock will start on the ready for play unless something has happened, like a change of possession, that would stop the clock and not start us, right? So an inadvertent whistle is blown during running clock time. There's no turnover, there's no change of possession, there's nothing that else that would have stopped the clock. We're going to wind that clock as soon as we have that ball marked ready for play. It will stop for the 2-minute timeout. You all need to be ready to instruct your timers according to all these new things. So not only are these going to be changes for us, but they're going to be changes for our timers who generally for the last couple of years have, just started the clock and then not really thought much about it. We need to be ready for the fact that all officials need to be using stop and start clock mechanics, and we'll show those in just a few minutes. As to the 2-minute timeout, it will stop on the 2-minute time for the 2-minute timeout. If there is live play when the clock hits 2 minutes, the clock will continue to run until the play is over. So that under 2 minutes, that may end up being under 2 minutes. The clock may end up stopping at 1 minute and 58 seconds. We do not adjust the clock. We play from the 158. It may stop at 156. Wherever it stops under 2 minutes after the play is over is where it will start again. Do not adjust, and make sure your clock operators understand they will not adjust it back to 2 minutes. We just start from where it stopped. If there was live play happening at 2 minutes. If there's not live play happening at 2 minutes, officials should be ready to and aware of the game clock enough to come in and kill it and stop that clock at 2 minutes and not let that play go off if there is not live play happening. At the 2-minute warning, we will take a 30-second officials timeout. Now, I will tell you, the coaches have been told and instructed, however, will forget that this is a 30-second timeout. This is a gift to them by us to essentially give them another opportunity for a timeout at that point. There are only 2 timeouts per team per half. So this gives each team an additional third timeout. It just all comes at the same time and only one is granted, right? So 2 minutes left in the half or 2 minutes left in the game, we're stopping that clock. We're giving them a very quick 30-second timeout. And then the ball will be made ready for play. If they're still huddled on the sideline, you're going to make that ball ready for play, and they're going to put themselves at risk of a delay of game. So be ready for that. I'm going to hammer that in. It's a 30-second timeout. We're going to be quick about it. When we're under 2 minutes in either half, then we will stop for incomplete forward passes. We will not stop if a backwards pass hits the ground. Clock will remain live. It will only be incomplete forward passes. Or the ball or player in possession of the ball goes out of bounds, and it will start again on the snap. The clock will stop for any officials timeout and start on the ready for play or the snap. If we are in running clock time and we stop the clock for a player injury, as soon as that player is off the field and the ball is made ready for play and we are in running clock time, the clock will run. I can tell you all right now, newer officials or officials that haven't worked a lot at the referee position, you will need to focus a lot more on the game clock, making sure that you are taking time to glance at it, not look at it and stare at it, but glance at it to know if it is running when it should be running or stopped when it should be stopped. If it is not running and it should be, you need to get a signal to your white hat, or you need to step out in the middle of the field and give a wind signal so that that information gets conveyed up to the booth. I would encourage you all to, when you speak with your timers prior to the game, your clock operators, that you're letting them know they really should be watching all officials on the field, not just the white hat, when it comes to starting and stopping the clock. We want to make sure that we're on top of getting that clock started again as quickly as possible after any of these things happen. On any safety or touchback, the clock will start on the snap, right? If we have a safety, we obviously have a change of possession. Clock starts on the change, stops on the change of possession, and we are not starting again until the snap of the next ball. The clock will stop when we declare first down if we are under 2 minutes in each half. So that will be part of our stop clock timing procedures. For those who are not as familiar, the referee will use this signal 1 to make the ball ready for play. And the signal cut into that picture there is the signal for the untimed down when we get to the point after try, or if by chance we have a, penalty on B at the end of a half or at the end of a game, and we will be working from an untimed down. The timeout, stop time, stop the clock. Everyone should know and understand this signal. It's not new, right? The start clock is the wind of the arm in a circular motion. Again, I would encourage all officials, and as you read through the mechanics manual, I would encourage all officials to make sure you're spending a lot of time with your game clock operators and letting them know that there will often be stop clock, that they may see a stop clock signal and stop the clock, but it may be only stopped for a couple of seconds, and then an immediate wind signal may come. They are really going to have to be paying attention. It's difficult for us. We understand as officials that, we are supposed to be doing our mechanics the same way all the time. We have a player coming to the sideline. We forget that it's not, that it's under 2 minutes, or we forget that it's not under 2 minutes and player goes out of bounds and we give a stop clock signal. As soon as you do that, make sure you're glancing up, and if they have stopped the clock, be ready to wind it really quickly so that we're only stopping for a second or two on some of those. I encourage you to just keep your mechanics the same and learn to keep an eye on the clock, especially the referee and the field judge. Field judge, don't forget, you will have eyes on the clock when the referee has their back to the clock. So those two officials, more than any of the other two, really need to be keeping an eye on that clock so that it's moving when it needs to be moving. Okay. Just so everyone knows, or I think many of you may already have inkling that this is coming, but we will be moving to a 1 yard rush line. Okay, so gone is our 7 yard mark off for a rusher or a person legally able to cross the line of scrimmage, is gone. We will now have a neutral zone that will be 1 yard in length from the A restraining line, so the line of scrimmage, 1 yard into the defensive backfield. That space may not be occupied by either team until after the snap of the ball. All defensive players are legal to cross the line of scrimmage once the ball has been snapped. There are no requirements as to number or positioning on the field to who can and who cannot cross the neutral zone. This slide, if you haven't seen the mechanics manual yet, I know it just came out, will give you some ideas of how we want you positioned on the field. The line judge will be opposite the press box with the down marker. That's that lovely orange box above them. And the field judge will begin downfield at a place downfield that makes sense to the pace of play of the game. Field judge, if you are the field judge for any contest, you need to make effort to involve yourself in the game. Any plays finishing further downfield than 10 yards, it should be you hustling in to help spot the ball. You should be moving back, perhaps not all the way to the line of scrimmage after a play, but getting fairly close and then moving yourself downfield. So while the field judge will not be coming to the line of scrimmage and marking off the 7-yard rush line any longer, they really do still need to move close to the new line of scrimmage in between each play and be part of the game. There's some concern that everyone will want to be the field judge because they think that they can just go camp 20 yards downfield and not work. It's a concern of mine. And I want you all to know that that's not the expectation. So make sure that you are, if you are the field judge for that particular game, you are involving yourself in the game and moving back close to the line of scrimmage and moving out into the field of play to help with things. You'll also notice that our new mechanics manual talks about this concept of triangle players in. I want to cover it just a little bit so that as you dive into the mechanics manual, you understand what's happening here. I know that traditionally in three official and even 5 official football mechanics, the referee rolls with the quarterback and always starts where the quarterback, if it's a right-handed quarterback, then I'm going to start on the side that will leave me open to seeing the pass of that quarterback. We've found the longer we do this and the longer things go in and the way it continues to be more successfully officiated is that the referee is always toward the field judge side of the field. So in this instance, it would be closer to the press box. They always start on that side and they always move toward that sideline or move directly up toward the line of scrimmage should the quarterback in this instance roll to their right. So let's say the way this is lined up, that quarterback takes the snap and begins to roll to their right-hand side, right? So we're rolling towards the top of the screen, towards the line judge. The referee's usual instinct is going to be to move with the quarterback toward the line judge. You can see, given these triangles on the field, how that closes down the space that the line judge is occupying. There isn't enough distance between the referee and the line judge to keep the field covered adequately. Also, if this ball is, close to a line to gain, it may be the line judge's responsibility to move immediately to that line to gain, in which case the referee needs to be ready to move up to the line of scrimmage to rule on a illegal forward pass or something of that like. So when you're looking at these pictures, understand that there was a lot of thought put into why we do this mechanics. There was a lot of talk from the flag football community across our nation, as well as even some international play that has been happening lately. And this is the best way to keep those players all triangled in and make sure that no officials end up, within 10 yards of each other. Our point after tries And when you guys, if you go back and watch this again, or if you're taking notes, please know where it says Rule 8.1, it will be 8.1. This is from these rule references are accurate, or at least I've been told they are. So, Rule 8.1, the point after try will be from the 3-yard line for 1 point, or the 10-yard line for 2 points. Once the declaration is made, they may only change it on a penalty. If we are coming in to enforce a penalty, let's say they elect to go for the 1 point from the 3-yard line, and we have a encroachment on the defense. The team may change at that point their declaration to go for it from 2 points from the 10, in which case we would now enforce that encroachment penalty from the 10-yard line, putting the ball at the 5, and we would have a 2-point try from the 5-yard line. I hope that made sense to everyone, right? If there is a penalty, they can change their declaration. They can also change their declaration if they take a timeout, but it will cost them a timeout. If they get up to the line of scrimmage and they decide that that is not what they wanted, it will cost them a timeout in order to change that declaration. But if they take a timeout, or if we are enforcing a penalty, they may change their declaration. Same thing if we have a penalty on A in this instance. Let's say they want to go for 2, and then we have a false start on A. A can elect at that point to change to a 1 point and go for it from the 8-yard line versus the 2 point from the 15-yard line. They can change. If we are enforcing a penalty, they may change their declaration. Unlike the last few years, all turnovers on point after tries will result in a dead ball. So that now mirrors the tackle rule. If we have an interception on a point after try, immediately whistles, big arm signals, killing that play, big. And we are not running those back for any points. All right. Just on point after tries. For safeties, after we have a safety, we will next put the ball in play from the 30-yard line. After a touchback, and as we'll get into in a few minutes, a touchback to start the game, to start the second half. After every time we are putting the ball back in play, it will be on the 14-yard line now, not the 20. So we were, for the last 2 years, putting the ball in play from the 20-yard line to start the game, to start the second half, after a score. Any of those times, we had been, for the last couple of years, putting it in play from the 20-yard line. That ball will now be put into play from the 14-yard line. This rule, of a lot of the changes, is one of the ones that I personally am quite excited about. We have, for the last couple of years, had a lot of teams, as they learn this game, who are just not quite capable of moving the ball 20 yards to achieve their first down. So we tended to see, especially with lower level play, a lot of 3-and-outs and then declared punts, a lot of 3-and-outs and declared punts, 3-and-out, declared punt, because they could move the ball 5, 6, 7 yards in those 3 plays, but they couldn't get close enough to make it worth it to go for it on a 4th down. So it would be a declared punt, and we're moving the ball. That's no longer going to be the case, right? Now we're going to essentially give everyone not an automatic first down, like they still have to move the ball 6 yards, but they're going to get a first down pretty quickly once they start play from the 14-yard line. Should only take a play or two, unless we have 3 incomplete passes back to back. But this is a good thing for this game to help increase the amount of play actually happening versus the amount of declared punts that are happening during a game. Oh, um, encroachment will now be a dead ball foul. I think that we were not all on the same page about defensive encroachment last year. But in this rule book, encroachment is a dead ball foul. Now, encroachment means anything inside a defensive player moving anywhere inside of that 1 yard neutral zone. So the 1 yard neutral zone is established on the ready for play. And once the ready for play has been marked, no defensive player can enter that 1 yard space anywhere along the length of the field, unless it's a substitution. They're coming onto the field, or they're coming off of the field, something like that. We're going to overlook them running through or moving through that neutral zone space. But once the ball is made ready for play, the defense must be on their side of that 1 yard neutral zone. If they are not, and they move into that 1 yard neutral zone at any point in time after the ball has been made ready for play, we will have an encroachment foul, and it will be a dead ball foul. We will blow that play dead, throw our flags, enforce the penalty accordingly. Much like has been the case over the last couple of years for us, but again, to clarify and to make sure everyone is on the same page about this, some of these we will hammer home, because we all across not just Southern Section, but across this state, want to make sure that we're calling all these the same way. So the feet of the person receiving the snap must be 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. The CIF interpretation of this does not mean the quarterback can never take a snap under center. Imagine in your brain the body of the center, once their hands are on the ball, will occupy about 1 yard of space. And the quarterback could still come up under center, keeping their feet 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, reach out and take a direct snap. So this 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, in the way California and CIF will be interpreting this, does not mean all snaps have to be taken in shotgun. It does not mean that. It means that we are, just like in years past, we're trying to avoid multiple players crowding the center in an attempt to deceive who is receiving the snap. All right, so as long as, and we're not getting out, officials, we're not getting out our measuring sticks to measure that person receiving the snap, that their feet were actually 100% 2 yards behind, right? This is a spirit of the law type of thing. I don't foresee the way this game is going to be played with a 1 yard neutral zone that many teams would elect to take snaps under center, but you may see it with an immediate pitch back to someone else. So just know that the feet of the person receiving the snap needs to be 2 yards behind, but we will allow them to put their feet there and then still take snaps under center. I said already, all defensive players are legal rushers now. If they end up in the 1 yard neutral zone, then we know we have an encroachment foul, and they can cross that as soon as, or the line of scrimmage, any number of them from anywhere on the field, as soon as the ball is snapped. It does say very specifically that the snapper's body must be behind the ball, but there is no requirement that the snap travel between the snapper's legs. Okay, so they cannot be standing directly over the ball. Their body does have to be behind the ball, but those really weird side snaps, they are still going to be legal. Some of these teams that had, their snappers standing to the side of the ball and turning their body sideways to snap the ball from the ground. All other elements of the snap are the same as we are all used to. It must move sharply and directly from the ground out of the center's hands into someone else's hands. I'll just toss in right here, even though I don't think I put it on a slide for tonight. There are no formation requirements, none, other than the snapper needs to be on the line of scrimmage with the ball, and a player must be lined up in a position to receive the snap. Those are the only two requirements, and that's almost word for word what it states when it comes to formation requirements for the offense. So we could end up with 6 players off the line of scrimmage in some instances at the snap of the ball. Just be ready for the fact that that might happen. And it is legal. Okay? All right, our field size will be the same as it has been. So this is not much of a change for us. It will be 120 feet by 300 feet. Now that 300 feet is 100 yards. It does not mean we're playing on a 100-yard field. It means that we have 2 10-yard end zones at the end of each. Our actual playing field minus the end zone is still 80 yards. Okay, so we have an 80-yard field with 2 10-yard end zones at the end of each. 120 feet wide. We will not, until it comes to playoffs, be hard and fast about this. Again, we don't expect you to get your measuring tapes and go out there. We have made allowances in the past for schools to use already permanent marking lines on their field that do make the field slightly wider than this 120. For the most part, we're going to overlook those kinds of things and we're going to play, because having a permanent line on a field is way more important than the fact that we're playing on a field that's, 128 feet wide versus 120 feet wide. The schools all have these numbers, and I will tell you, I have already received phone calls from schools who needed this information because they were permanently lining their field for girls flag football. So expect to see that some places as you go to work as well, that they are over this spring and summer adding lines permanently to accommodate their girls flag football, which is spectacular and makes me very excited. Our lines to gain will still be at the 20, the 40, and the 20. I will say again, play will start on the 14, not the 20 like we have been used to. We will use, quote, hash marks to spot the ball. Now, most of these fields are not going to have permanently marked hash marks that are the appropriate size for girls flag football. So what we have asked the schools to do is put pylons outside of the end zone, 20 from the center of the field, 23 feet apart at the end of each end zone, so that as the official moves in to spot the ball at the appropriate yard line, they can glance up and line up with those pylons that would let them know where the hash marks should be. So pylons outside of the end of each end zone that will indicate where we are spotting the ball at the hash. So any play ending outside of those will move to the closest hash. Any play inside will move to the actual spot when the ball became dead. We will use, and you all will find in your mechanics manual, that a numbering system similar to what we use with tackle football, that you can part of your pregame with your fellow officials, because obvious a 1-3-5 or a 1-2-3 numbering system, so that we have hash, center, hash. That's going to be enough for bringing the ball back after an incomplete pass when we have to return the ball to previous spot, or any time we're moving the ball, putting the ball back at the previous spot. As long as it is, we're marking it off of hash, center, hash, we're going to be okay with that. We're not going to get so deeply involved that we're, making sure the ball comes exactly back to the spot. If we are off by a yard or two here or there, we're going to be okay with that as far as right to left on the field of play. I am going to, I thought we wouldn't get through that much. You guys are awesome. I thought that things were going to take longer than they are. So we are going to stop share and go back to this beautiful screen. I'm going to, I will ask for, I'm going to give you all just a couple of minutes to, if you have questions specific to what we just went over, please, I'm going to give you just a couple of seconds, put a few things in the chat that I can address. I don't really want to open it up to open forum but if I give you all just a few minutes to put your questions in the chat, then we can address them as they come up. That's how I think we will best handle this. So, and I know I didn't say this to begin the meeting, but there will be, when we conclude in about 10-15 minutes, we'll post a link to a Google form in the chat that you'll get to fill in, and we will get that information out to your instructional chairs that you were in attendance at this meeting. So, in relation to only the information we covered today, any questions? Can the ball be placed at requested between the hash marks? Yeah, so when we come out to start the game and coach says, hey, I want it on the right hash, or when we are starting a new series from the 14-yard line and coach says, can we spot that on the right hash? Absolutely. Go ahead and put that ball on the right hash. There's no problem with that in any way, shape, or form. Diego, I know that was a misprint. So the CIF interpretation state that it's a 60-second timeout at the 2-minute warning. That was changed before that document went out. It will be changed, and that document will be reissued once the rule book becomes live. That document was put together pretty quickly without myself and many of the others at CIF being able to talk about some of these things, but it will be 30 seconds despite what the paper you currently have. So when those new CIF rule interpretations are put out for kind of permanence, let's say, that will happen after the rule book, after people actually have the rule book. So sometime after June 9th, that sheet will be made more permanent and that change will be made. But good question, Diego. So teams no longer request the ball to be centered after each play. No, we will mark it on a hash mark, right? If it ends outside the right hash, then we're coming in on the yard line to the right hash, and that's where the play starts. They do not get to decide that it's centered, and we're not taking the time to ask them if they want it moved 4 yards one way or the other. That just takes time away from us being able to spot the ball. It will be spotted at the hash mark where it nearest ended, or if we're inside of the hash marks where the play ended. If it's inside the hash marks, just to keep things simple, y'all, I would just center that ball every single time. If it's outside the hash marks, then I would go to the hash marks. That just keeps things nice and simple, especially when we're coming back after an incomplete pass or we're returning the ball to the previous spot. Super easy to remember if we're just using hash, center, hash. So anything any inside, we are absolutely going to be okay that you center that ball. Anything ending outside the hash marks, we're going to go to the hash. There is no longer a 7-second quarterback clock. It is gone. The quarterback, whomever receives the snap, has whatever period of time they wish. There is also no limits on the number of times the quarterback may run with the ball, right? We have in the past couple of years, we've had some wonky stuff where the quarterback was only allowed to run once per series of down, all that's gone, right? Quarterback can run unlimited number of times, and there is no 7-second clock to be counted off by the referee any longer. How far should the field judge be off the line on the sideline? I believe it says in the mechanics manual the field judge should start anywhere from 10 to 12 yards, 10 to 15 yards downfield at the snap of the ball. You all really want to keep that. These are guidelines. If you have a team that's only moving the ball 6 yards every single play for the last 8 plays, maybe the field judge doesn't need to be 20 yards downfield, right? Please be in a position that makes you useful. However, field judge, you are the last line of defense, and no player should ever pass the field judge. So, field judge, if you're letting receivers go by you, you're out of position, right? I recommend, and I know not everyone has done this, but I recommend that position be played much like we are playing field judge and side judge in a 7 officials mechanics, where the field judge, at the snap of the ball, their first 3 steps are backwards while they read the play. And then their next thought is, do I need to get ready to turn and run, or do I need to stand still and wait for the play to come to me? And that is all off of reads of your wide receivers. Okay? Wide field of vision where you're reading what your next movement is going to be off of the wide receivers and where it looks like they are headed. I answered already. Quarterback can run any number of times. Oh, good question, Bob. JV game length. So CIF understands, and they get at least Southern section. So this is going to be a Southern section by section, and even to some extent league by league declaration, that when both coaches agree, JV game times can be shortened to 10-minute quarters. Okay. We cannot alter the rules other than that. We can't just say, oh, we're not going to stop the clock to enforce penalties, or we're not going to stop the clock on scores. We have to enforce the rule book as written. So what we can do is say JV contests, if coaches agree, can be 10-minute quarters instead of the 12-minute quarters. Now, if coaches don't agree, we're playing 12-minute quarters, y'all. It's the way that's going to go. Okay. Your JV game rate is still covering you to be on that field for 1 hour and 45 minutes. That's the time length of the JV game rate. The time length of the varsity game rate is now 2 hours. So inevitably you are still getting paid for the time that you're there. Most of our games last year lasted right around varsity games right around an hour 15, JV games right around an hour, just depending. Um, we know there were some issues with stop clocks and things like that, but officials, I can't impress upon you enough when you are hustling to get your job done, the entire game goes quicker. So if you feel like a game's dragging, perhaps just, check yourself. I know I've been on a field before when my legs were tired and it's the end of a long day and I'm not hustling like I know I can. And I'll feel often like this game's just dragging and it feels like this game needs to end. Whatever. We've all been there. We got it. But check yourselves. Ask yourselves if there's something you can do to help speed the process of this game up. Okay? No carryover on timeouts, 2 timeouts per half. They are only allowed in that half. Um, uh, Please know that this is just an introduction that is starting with a lot of changes that you all are going to be seeing coming. I know that everybody's been chomping at the bit, wanting more information, so we are just going to get it to you in chunks that are digestible versus throwing everything at you all at once. JV overtime, no. Okay. The answer is just let both coaches know prior to the game. We don't play overtime in JV games. We don't have time. The reality of the situation is just that. There just isn't time for JV teams to be playing overtime. Um, I think you all will be surprised at the number of schools that actually are starting freshman programs this year. So it will no longer just be double headers, it will be triple headers. And we are already crunched for field space time. So, and the coaches know this. They're already in a panic about scheduling and having enough time, just given the estimated added 15 minutes of game time, let alone what it would look like when we start playing overtime in JV contests. Okay. So, JV contests will end in a tie because of that. Um, New referees get field training. That's all up to your individual units, right? So if you are new official to flag football, please, please, please immediately reach out to the instructional chair of your officiating unit. If you are inland, that's going to be Matt Knowlton. If you are Orange County, that's going to be Rick Langemeyer. I think Diego is one. If you don't know who you should be reaching out to, reach out to anyone inside of your officiating unit and they will let you know. Someone hopefully has already contacted you and let you know what's going to be happening, or you should be receiving emails. If all you do is reach out to the person that sent you the email that said, sign on to this meeting, they'll know what can be done about on-field training for your individual units. CFOA will not be holding any on-field training. It'll all be done by the individual units. Clock stops on change of possession, starts on the snap. Play clock will remain 25 seconds and will begin on the ready for play. The good news about that ready for play, just so you all know, we no longer have to wait for a 7-yard rush line to get marked off. So as soon as that ball's down, we should be able to start a play clock, right? Versus last year, we were kind of waiting because the field judge had to get back to the line of scrimmage and mark off their rush line, and we were not starting a play clock until all officials were in position. So the ability to start the play clock sooner should increase given the fact that we don't have to wait for the rush line to be marked off. Uh, Questions about blocking, you guys, we're not going there today. We just don't have time. I want to get everybody out of here in an hour and just know that we will have as many of these meetings as we need to have to make sure you all are up to speed and know the rules. These meetings, again, as all of our meetings will be uploaded to the YouTube page, so you can come back and watch them anytime you want. But several questions. Mercy rule will remain the same, Gus, just that it's the same. We we would not have stop clock procedures, and that would include, in the fourth quarter, if we have a mercy rule 28 points, then we're not stopping the clock for change of possession. We're not stopping the clock for uh we are still stopping the clock for scores. So basically that mercy rule, it's 28 points, but it would look a heck of a lot like tackle. Okay. Where we should still be stopping the clock for scores, but we all know how we kind of get around some of those things in some of those games that need to end. But the point total for mercy rule is a by state adoption. California will keep the same 28 as we've had.
Marianne, do you want to post that thing for people so that they could do their quiz?
Yeah, I do. Thanks, Matt. Give me just a second, everybody. So in the chat right now is a link. You are going, if you wish to receive credit from your association for attending this meeting, training credit, I need you to click on that link. And fill in the information asked. It is just name and unit. That's all I need. And then there is a third question. If you wish to receive emails directly from me, I will be sending out updates and things like that as well. If you want to get everything through your association, you don't need to give me your email address. It's all good. It won't help you at all to put your name in the chat, just so you know. I'm not going to copy and paste and put all this information that's in the chat out there. I need you. If you want someone to know that you were at this meeting, you have got to put it in that Google form that is there. Brad, I don't have a clue about, are they pushing back start times because of heat index? I know that many of us last year had games that were delayed or changed because of heat index issues with the schools. The heat index thing remains the same. That's a CIF thing, not an NFHS thing. CIF is the one that instituted the heat index. So I don't have a clue. Schools will make adjustments as they need, and we will do our best to be flexible. And Jeff Hasbell, our starts on the line of scrimmage for two-man mechanics. Yes, they do. That's all in the mechanics manual. All of your instructional chairs should have the mechanics manual. It is a PDF form, and they will be sending it to you or sharing it with you as they feel necessary. If you think you may have missed something, again, I encourage you to reach out to your individual association instructional chairs. Were a couple of other questions about kicking and blah, blah, and whatever. We're not talking about kicking today. We're not talking about punting today. We're not talking about blocking today. We're not doing those kinds of things. Those are all trainings that are going to take an hour each just inside themselves. So we are going to take that. Again, last time, I'm going to stop this recording really quickly.